When I was at the University of Chicago, I became involved with people who were active in the civil rights movement, and that was the first time in my life that I had active contact with black people who were active in the peace movement. We're basically talking about socialism, and it was at the University of Chicago that I had an opportunity to do a whole lot of reading in social psychology and sociology, and I would say it was there that my ideas were formed. And I should point out that I did not come from a political family. My parents, I think, voted Democrat, but they were not really terribly political. I had an instinct as a rebel, but the ideas came on top of an already rebellious personality.
Good evening. My name is Bernard Sanders. The purpose of this program is twofold. First and primarily, we are going to examine an aspect of Vermont life that is not often seen on television, either commercial or public. We are going to be looking at poverty in Vermont, the economic misery, totally unnecessary in my view, that is grinding down the lives of tens of thousands of Vermonters in every area of our state. We'll be talking to several members of the Abnaki Tribal Council who live in Franklin County, and they'll be telling us about the living conditions there. We'll meet residents of the Franklin Square low-income housing project in Burlington, and some women from central Vermont who are valiantly trying to maintain their human dignity while living on welfare.
Real bad. I got cut from $131 to $48 a month. And with winter coming on with the oil prices, I don't know how we're going to make it.
Today our guest is Burlington Mayor Bernard Sanders. Sanders is an anomaly anywhere in American politics. Since 1981, he has been the only mayor in the country to call himself a socialist. He attended the University of Chicago, and after graduating there, summered here in Vermont, and he finally moved to the state permanently in 1968. He ran for senator 3 times and governor once on the Liberty Union ticket. He made his living as a freelance journalist until he was elected mayor here in 1981. Welcome to our show.
Pleasure to be here.
But once again, what we are doing is, in my view, of national significance. We are saying that if you articulate the issues, if you make sense to ordinary working people and the elderly and poor people and any people who are willing to look at the issues in a sane and rational manner, that we can bring this community together and go forward. From my point of view, I thank all of you from the bottom of my heart, and I look forward to another exciting 2 years. Thank you.
The idea that people call me Bernie, I think, has to do with the fact that I try and do not believe that a mayor or a governor or a senator or a president is some exalted human being. I don't believe in that stuff. I really don't. I get paid by the people of the city of Burlington. They pay me a very nice salary. And they put me in this job. I work for them. I am a worker, like everybody else is a worker. And in a sense, they are my employers. I work for them. I don't see why somebody who works for somebody else should be placed on a higher plane. That's what democracy is about. If they like what I'm doing, they keep me here. If they don't, they remove me. That I am Bernie means that I am a reasonably unpretentious person. I've never had any money in my entire life. Now I have, a few dollars in the bank, but I'm not terribly different than most people are, and I don't want to be treated very differently than other people are. The first point to understand is, if you think that the function of Channel 3 or the Burlington Free Press is to educate you about the world in which you're living, it's not. It really is not. And that's the nature of private media in general. The function of private media is to make money for the people who own the media. It is a business. When you go to McDonald's, you don't go there and say, Jesus, I didn't get the whole story about what's going on in Nicaragua. You got a hamburger. And when you watch television, you also should not be terribly disappointed that you have not learned about what's going on in the world in which you're living. That is not the function of television. In general, not in general, but as is the fact, the mass media in this country is owned by very, very wealthy people. Both David and Abby mentioned that we live in a country where a tiny handful of people own and control our country, and you can be damn sure that when you own and control this country, you own and control the media. Now we do have a free media, it's a free society, And for a mere $6 or $7 billion, anybody in this room could probably buy CBS tomorrow. We might want to pass the hat. After putting the money into my campaign, what we have left over, we might want to buy NBC. You know, it's... No, you were not born stupid. Come here. Come here.
That's on the outside. Check the inside. Maybe you'll see something.
That's right. Do you think that... What is your name?
Ernest.
You think you're dumb?
Yep.
Well, I'm the mayor of the city, and I don't think you're dumb, Ernest. And you know where? The only way I think you're dumb? I think when you think you're dumb. Because you're not. But if you get into the habit of thinking you're dumb and you can't do anything, then that's what you're going to end up doing, is not doing anything. All right? And I bet you can read. Can you know how to read yet? Can you read yet pretty well? And you can write? And I think when you get into that, you're going to find that reading is interesting. There's a lot of things to be known out there. Okay? All right? And I would hope that you don't give up on yourself. The exciting thing about Jackson's campaign is that this is a guy who comes from the grassroots. We say, well, this guy has never been a senator, he's never been a congressman or a mayor or a governor. That's right. But he has been in the streets. He has put his life on the line, fighting not only for the legal rights, the moral rights of black people, but of all working people. This guy has had the guts to be where the action is. He's been on the picket line with strikers. He's been in demonstration. He started out with nothing, with no money. A black man attempting to get elected in a system which has never in a million years thought to elect a black person. And I think people are impressed with his courage, with his dynamism, with his willingness to articulate issues that are relevant to the disenfranchised, the poor people. 50% of the people in America have given up on the political process. They don't even vote. Who talks about those people? Who talks about them? Mike Dukakis talk about them? Gephardt talk about them? They're non-human beings. They're not part of the political process. And one of the interesting points, you know, people are talking about, if Jackson gets the nomination, can he win? Well, who knows? And I think what the experts are saying is, yeah, the conservative whites are going to desert him, which is perhaps true. But the interesting question, in fact, the most interesting question that modern American politics has ever seen, and will see, is will the 50% of the poor people, the working people, who are now not participating in the political process, who have given up, can Jackson get some of those people to jump in and say, you know, for the first time in my life, I'm poor, I got nothing, I can't pay my phone bill, I can't pay my health care bills, I'm going to vote because Jesse Jackson is standing up for my rights.
You all understand that it is not going to be Bernie Sanders or any other member of Congress that's going to bring about the change that we need. That what we need in this country is a mass movement of tens of millions of people who are prepared to stand up and say, we want national health care. We want the millionaires and the multinational corporations who have not been paying their fair share of taxes to start paying. That we want money going into education and environmental protection. As I stand before you, I think that maybe one small state might go down in history as being the leading state in the fight for a political revolution. A political revolution which takes power away from the multinationals and the wealthy and gives it back to the people where it belongs. And we will not succeed unless all of us, workers and farmers and women, peace activists, environmentalists, independent people who want to reclaim this nation for all of us, begin to stand up and fight for what's right. And that's what we intend to do in Congress. Thank you all very, very much.
Okay, ready to go? Okay, on Thursday and Friday, the Government Operations Committee, of which I'm a member, spent 2 days in Canada. We were both in Ottawa and then in Toronto, meeting with a wide variety of people so that we could better understand the strengths and weaknesses of the Canadian healthcare system. The reason that the single-payer Canadian system is more cost-effective, the Canadian single-payer system eliminates the vast insurance bureaucracies that exist, especially in our country when you have 1,500 competing private insurance companies. And this chart just gives you an indication in terms of the hospital building and administration in U.S. and Canada. We're spending $162 per capita. They spend $50 per capita. So that's one of the reasons their system is more cost-effective.
There's a lot more deficit reduction that needs to be done. What are some of the programs that you hold near and dear that you'd be willing to give up?
First of all, if in fact my ideas do not prevail, but the President is right and that we reduce our deficit by 50% over the next 5 years, don't kid yourself. That is a major and significant step forward. Now, if your question is, I reject the argument. You see, some people make the argument, they say, well, Bernie, you know, everybody has got to have to suffer. You know, we're all hurting. We're going to have to cut the programs for the elderly and cut the programs for the children and cut the programs for the working people. We're all in this together. But I just gave you some statistics. And what the statistics said is that in a 6-year period during the 1980s, the richest 0.5% increased their share of the wealth by over $1 trillion. Trillion. That is big money. So before this congressman asked working people and poor people and children to take further cutbacks in their standard of living, you know what? I'm going to go after that richest 0.5% who made out like bandits. So I reject the idea that all of us have to suffer. The rich made out like bandits. Working people and poor people saw a decline in their standard of living. What's incumbent upon the President now and the Congress now is to go after those people. Now, after you go after those people, if there's still more to be done, we can talk about it. But we've got a long way to go. And let me just maybe conclude my remarks by saying, you know, obviously it is beyond my wildest expectations to have won by the victory that we won yesterday. And it is also a very nice feeling to know how well we did in my hometown. It is nice to know that in the old North End, where we always did well, that those people have stayed with me for 10 years. I think in some of the wards we won 75, 80% of the vote. So my thanks to those people, to people all over the state of Vermont. I simply make the promise that I've made throughout the campaign. I will be the very best congressman from Vermont that I can be, and I thank you all very much for giving me that vote of confidence. Thank you all.